There
Yeah.
we go. Got it. Okay. I'll put the chat up there. Okay. So what I do is I look at where price is currently, and I'm really just trying to find a couple of support and resistance points either side of price currently, so that when it moves into it, that I can take the trade. So can you jump on?
Yeah, I'm about to.
And sorry, if you see, if I pause, it's just me admitting people. So what I do is I switch over to the daily time frame. I'm just going to zoom in there. And then on the current candle for the day, I just try and look for the very bottom point to the bottom of the wick, and then the top. And then I look to see if there's any other sort of key resistance points where I'm getting maybe a few touch points recently. And if you look over here, this bottom of yesterday's wick actually correlates quite nicely with the flat back here. And it's actually got almost a touch point through there a few days ago. So I'm just going to pop one there. Now, I don't really have many touch points here or down here right now. And I could do this on the daily. So I could go down a little bit further and see if I get any more places where price is rebounded. Sorry, just admit those people. But what I like to do is usually if prices, usually I just try and do touch points that are very close to the current candle, so today's candle. And the way to do that really easily is on the daily, I've got the top and the bottom of today's daily one. Then I can go down to the 4 hour and I can see what's been happening recently on the 4 hour chart. So I actually see prices coming up here. So I make minor adjustments. So I see that prices come down and it's bounced off this area here, and it's also come up and bounced onto that. So I'm going to actually move this one up a little bit to reflect that. So I've got this flat line here where it's bounced, and it's also come up recently and hit into it. So possibly if it comes up again, I might take it. And then down below here, I'm trying to find, if it moves down, where is it going to rebound? Obviously, if you look back here, there's a bunch of touch points through here, all the way through there, and it's even bounced on it there. So definitely if it comes down here, this would be, you know, a zone of interest for me. And I'm just doing this on the fly. Like, you'll be doing this on the fly and you'll learn to do it a lot quicker. And then now this is the 4 hour candle. So for me doing, you know, 3-minute trades, it's going to take a long time for that to come down to there. I just put it in there just in case, but really I want to find a few more points that are closer to where price is currently. Otherwise we'll be waiting around here for a long time. So there's a few ways of doing that. You can either zoom back, and I can see over here, it's bounced, I mean, sort of rebounded off that on the way up, and it's also bounced off that on the way down. So I could use that as a line, and I quite like that as a line. That's one way of doing it. Does this all make sense to everybody? Yes, you can use pocket option for demo trades today. You won't have rollover, and I might utilize rollover, but yeah, you should be fine. So this is one way of doing it. You can either move back to find previous support and resistance, or you can keep just moving down. You can stay on where you're at currently and just keep moving down the chart. So if I switch to 1 hour, now it gives me a clearer idea of what's been happening more recently. Now, yeah, you guys will get used to this, but sorry, I'm just liking it through here. If it moves up, see how we've got some resistance through there, or some touch points where it's come through, and over here as well. And then if I move back here, sort of up there, so that could be one there. Also, this could be one here. I'm thinking I'm going to use the one that's closer to price, because I don't want to wait too long. So it's, yeah, it's bounced there, it's gone on top and bounced off of it recently there. And over here as well. So that's my support. Now, I could even pop another one up and through there just in case. Sorry, and you guys will get used to this and just recognizing those patterns, and there's no right or wrong. Like literally sometimes, it looks like a really solid resistance and price just breaks through it. And sometimes it creates a slightly different resistance as price goes, as the market moves. So you just have to do your best and try and find what you think looks like the most touch points and the most times that you've seen price reverse off a certain point. So we're getting pretty close to here. Now, one thing that is pretty important to me with my short-term strategy is now that I've moved down to the 1 hour, I've got quite a few lines on there. You don't have to do this many lines. It's just, I don't know. I like to be prepared if price or if news comes out and it really shoots up or it really shoots down, that I have some idea of where it's going to go. Once I've gone down to about the 1 hour, for me, now I'm going to get down to the sort of area where I trade in, which is usually the 5 minute. I use the 15 minute, the 5 minute, and the 1 minute to sort of calculate or to find my trades. And let's admit these people. And so now that I've got my sort of general line set up, I'm going to switch down usually to the time that I trade on, and I'm just going to make some minor adjustments, and I'll tell you why that is. So when you switch down to the 1 hour, when you switch down to the time frame that you're wanting to trade on, then you're going to get a better idea of where you're wanting to actually enter these trades, and it's a balance between setting it. It's a balance between not missing an entry, but at the same time not entering too early, and reducing your odds of winning a trade. So for example, actually where it's at right now, I quite like where it's come down to here. I'm getting off topic, but it's come down to here, and it's bounced off this and it's bounced off this. So you can still add in more lines, so I like what it's doing now. See back here, it bounced off that. Back here it did it again, and then here again, and now it's sort of bouncing underneath it. So remember that previous support can become resistance. It's like a ceiling or a floor. Now a lot of the educators will talk about support and resistance, support being the bottom and resistance being if it bounces off the top. So support being the floor and resistance being the ceiling. For me, I just talk about resistance lines and support lines. I treat them as the same thing, because when I trade, I trade on such short time frames that this might be a resistance right now. If we zoom in on this, so it's coming up into it, so it's a ceiling, so it's a resistance, but it often breaks through like it is right now on these short time frames, and then it becomes a support. So to make it less confusing for me, they're all the same to me. It's support and resistance. They're just a line. They're an area of interest, and it's like that analogy of just a multi-story building. If you have a bowling ball and you throw it up and it hits the roof, maybe it bounces back, and maybe you throw it again and it hits the roof and it bounces back. Eventually it will break through, and when it breaks through, more than likely when it comes back down, it's going to bounce on the next floor. So it was a ceiling before, and now it's a floor. So I hope that makes sense. And so now that we're down on this 5 minute time frame, I'm going to make my adjustments. This is the time frame that I sort of find my entries on. So I want to make sure that I am getting good markups to make sure that I enter trades and don't miss out on them, but try and not miss out on too many trades, but not get in too early. And the way that I do that is I look at candles and wicks. So if I come down here, for example, this here was a previous area where price came up, it hit into it, it sort of came down, it then used it as support and went back up. So this here looks like a good area. And if I come back here, it sort of corresponds with this area here. Now, a support and resistance is not a singular line, it's a zone that it'll go. As you can see here, it's used this entire zone to bounce off of multiple times. And so you have to sort of determine the zone. And the way that I determine it is I find sort of the bottom of the candle. So the bottom of the body of the candle becomes the beginning of my zone. And I like this because it's got this, it's sort of in this zone here where the price has changed quite a bit. But for me, if this was going to come back down here, I would be waiting for it to get down to at least the bottom of this flat, the bottom of the flat bit of the candle, the body of the candle. And you can think of this as a zone. And I don't normally do this, but where is it? So this, and then the wick of the candles below my entry area becomes the zone. So that there is my zone now. If that comes down to here, then this is my zone. So let's try and find one at the top here. So and you can make these minor adjustments. Like I said, it's not an exact science. Even right now, it seems to be bouncing off of area below here. See, this here is where it's bouncing off here, and that comes through as an area where it's resisted and used as support. So even right now, it's bouncing off this little area here, and you know, it could push through. There's not a lot of clear ones on this one. It's not a very good demonstration, actually. Let me see if I can find something a bit better. Okay, possibly through here at the top here. If I zoom it, sometimes it's easier to zoom out to be able to see a clearer picture. So now if I zoom out a little bit, I can see here prices come down to here, it's bounced up, and over here it's come and supported under there. It's actually wicked down to that area there. You can see where there's this doji here, and it's created that little reversal there. Down here, it's bounced off of the same area, and you can follow that all the way through. So when you zoom out, sometimes it's easier to see an area, you know, an area of interest. Now, if we use that area as an example, where I've gone and popped it in here, price is moving up to this area. So my zone will be the exact opposite of this. So the body of the candle and the wick of the candle is my zone. Now, if it was this way around, where is the one that we just set? We just set this one here. So this one here, you can see the body of this candle and the wick of this candle correlates with the wick of this candle and the body of that candle. So you can see how there's been a couple of wicks through this whole area here. And that becomes my zone. Now, this isn't exactly like a straightforward, there's no set rules to this. It's just getting better and better at recognizing patterns and trying to best determine where it's going to turn around. And even here right now, like we're down here where this line is here, I want to create the entry point of my zone. I want to bring it closer to where price is currently, because I don't want to miss a trade. So for example, this line here, it's at the top of these wicks, and I mean, that correlates back here. You can see there's a few touch points, but for me, I would be bringing that down closer to price action so I don't miss the trade. And then I'll be using the wicks, and you can see here there's some confirmations back here of where a possible zone might be. So even if I use this and pull this across there, then it should give you a more of a clearer picture of how I create my zone. So it's the top of these wicks. You know, it's not exact. You know, I could probably I could make that a little bit bigger to correlate with the top of that wick, but you remember, it's not an exact science. This is the 5-minute time frame. So if I can get an entry around about here and it reverses, then I'll be in the clear, because it shouldn't hang around there too long. Now, is there any questions about that? I know that's very short and sweet, and possibly if you're brand new, it might not make a lot of sense. And even if you're been around for a while, I may not be the best at explaining it. But the more you hear it and the more you see it, the better it will, the easier you'll understand it, and the more it'll make sense. So that is how I sort of mark up my charts. Let me just get rid of these, because I don't actually like these zones. I like to just trade with the with the lines. So let's remove that. I'll enter, admit all of these people. Okay, so Let's jump on to some currency pairs and see if we can find some possible entries. And I'll just talk you through entry points. I think talking you guys through entries might be a really good thing to do today. I'll just show you down here. See how this line here, I've got this all the way down here. This was probably created on the daily chart. Now that I'm down on the 5 minute, you can see where prices come to. The reason why it's in there, I created on the daily chart, and it probably touched that back there somewhere. But this is probably going to be no good to me. If price comes all the way down to here, more than likely it's going to bounce before it touches that. It might end up coming down to it and touching it. But to me, this is not a good zone because I'm not touching anything. And I want to try and get a zone where my entry point is close to price. So what I would do is, I'm looking, there's the body of the candles there. I'd be bringing that up to there. And those wicks, where it's come down to previously, there, those wicks now become my zone, okay? And if this was going to be the reversal area, again, that's what I showed before, same thing. Those wicks there become my zone. Some zones, sometimes you get really long wicks, and then it's probably best to go back and look at previous price action to try and determine your zone. It's not always exactly black and white. Sometimes it's really easy to teach this because it just shows it so clear as day, but today is not one of those days. So hopefully this will give you an idea, and the next time that we jump on, I can get a bit more of a clearer, easier day to demonstrate that on. But does that make sense to you guys? Or to some of you at least?
It looks good, makes sense.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Okay, now let's see if we can get into some trades, and I can talk about how I create how I do my entries. So the pairs that we're going to be trading now, I've done the Euro AUD. We're probably possibly doing Euro USD, USD JPY, Euro JPY, or Euro AUD. Those ones are all marked up and ready to go for me. Now, before I start trading, I really like trend lines. I really like trading on, I trade consolidation, I trade all different markets, but I really like trying to see patterns and patterns in the market. So usually what I do is I switch up, because I trade on the 5 minute around about that time frame. I switch up to the 15 minutes to try and get a better idea of what's currently happening in the market. And sometimes it's just interesting to grab a trend tool and just see, is there anything that is creating a possible trend? Now, this could be nothing because it's not, well, I'm only seeing 3 touch points here. It could be absolutely nothing. But I like to just chuck something on there because it is creating 3 touch points there. It could be that it's rebounding off this trend right now. If I zoom in, it could be that it is actually respecting this line and rebounding off this trend, and that it could come back down and create another possible, a few entry points for me. It could be just that it's bouncing off the EMA and that this is not actually a trend. So you have to be careful when you do this. But I like to just zoom out and see what is happening on the bigger time frames, so that I could possibly create sort of some entry points for myself. So I'm going to leave that there.
It's just like an additional confirmation, right? It's just like another way for you to help with your accuracy as well.
Yeah. Now I'm going to jump on and just to see if we can find some. So this was an example of, I was trading last night. This is way, I've marked up these lines this morning, but last night I was actually trading this here, and I was trading it here. And it's really interesting. If you look at the market over time, it moves in these patterns. Not only do you have resistance and support lines, so moving up and down where it respects, if you zoom out, where it respects certain points, like we just spoke about on marking up the charts, you've got these certain points, horizontal lines that it respects, but quite often there's these diagonal patterns that get created in the market. And sometimes they're nothing. So be careful. If it's on a larger time frame and it's consistently respecting that pattern, then trade it. Sometimes it looks like a pattern and it just breaks out. So this one here, I created this last night because it was bouncing. I think it was about here. So I saw sort of this area come through there, and then I traded it here, and I won quite a few trades. I ended up taking about 10 trades. I was just practicing. It wasn't on my real account last night. And then I won 7 out of 10 just sort of trading that trend. And you'll notice that it bounced on top of it, just like support and resistance. Then it comes down and it bounces and it uses it as the ceiling. So the same concept happens quite often with these diagonal lines that it does with the horizontal lines. They respect it like a floor and a ceiling sometimes. So quite possibly, if this moves up, and especially if I'm getting a confirmation of a horizontal and a diagonal line meeting and price comes into an area that I like, then I might take that for a trade. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. And this is also another example is sometimes I can take a trend line that I've been using. I can copy it, and I don't know, it's not pasting it very well. So the software does this. I usually copy it, so Control C and Control V. Normally it pastes it in the exact sort of trend, but the software automatically tries and finds a trend line for you. So it's not demonstrating what I wanted to demonstrate. What I wanted to demonstrate is if it gives it to you in the exact angle. Sometimes what you can do, and this may not be a good example, but sometimes what you can do is you can actually move out and find new entry points by moving that and finding a channel. Now, this is not a very good example of it, but there is a subtle example of it here. So you can see that it's come up and it's touched there. It's come up, it's touched there, and it's come up and it's touched there. So it's actually during that period there, it created this channel that you could have traded. So
yeah, I was going to add to that. A lot of people are asking, he's not charting up on Pocket Option. This is on Trading View. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is the software. If you've done Rico's Bootcamp, this is a charting software that we use for analysis. So we don't do our analysis on our broker. All these lines and all this charting is done on Trading View, or you can also add a lot of these things into Hourglass, right? So that's where we use to actually find our trades. And you'll see now when we get into trading, he'll flick across to his broker to enter. We don't want to be putting all these lines and things on our broker account. This is just for our Trading View.
This is the broker account that I'm going to be using. If it will let me log in. There we go. Yeah, so for me, everybody's different. You can actually you can switch your broker account. Same with Pocket Option and all other brokers. You can actually you can switch them to candles. Can't even remember how to do it, but you can switch this to candles, and you can actually put all of the lines and everything on here. And that's, that seems like it would make sense, but I have just learned and been taught to do it outside of this. I like to just have this clean and be able to just see exactly where price is without anything in the way. And so I use Trading View, or sometimes a scanner. This Trading View is just like, this is set up like a scanner. In fact, it's set up exactly like Rico's strategy. And I like to have it separate. So I do all my marking up and finding out entry points here, and then I just switch across to my broker. I'm just going to get rid of it.
Yes, it's not about giving your broker the information. It's just more about keeping your broker screen really empty. So it's optimal entry point, and everything else is on your Trading View. So
yeah, that is one of the things. If you refresh, there's somebody just mentioned, if you refresh your broker screen, it will delete all your markups. So and quite often your broker, you get logged out and things like that. So it'd be very frustrating if you put in all this work and then it deletes your markups. Now, sorry, I sometimes ramble, and because we've been doing these for a couple of weeks, I'm sort of moving on to more advanced information, and I have to reel myself back, because I know there's a whole bunch of new people on here. And so we're just going to stick to the basics today. The whole point in all this is just to start thinking of the market as it just generates patterns all the time. And if you can recognize those patterns, then quite often you can trade them. Diagonal patterns and these horizontal patterns of resistance and support. So let's get into trading now, and we'll try and see if we can find some good entry points. So obviously being zoomed all the way out like this, you're not really seeing much. Now that we're trading, I usually come right in just so that I can see exactly where I'd like to enter. Now that has come down to there. I have a rule for me, and everybody has. Somebody just asked, where can we find the previous sessions?
All
They are
these in the MIB
yeah, they're
Elite.
recorded.
Yeah.
They're in the MIB Elite. Yeah, we'll post this one as well. When I'm trading, for me, I trade 3-minute trades. So if you go back to your broker and you haven't set up, make sure that you're on 3-minute timeframes. I don't touch this fixed time. Mine is, I'm not going to get into explaining that, but I just don't touch that. Just leave it as is. And I'm just going to trade $150. You guys should be trading no more than 3%. Ideally, in these sessions, I've been telling people not to trade real money, not live money yet, because I'm not an educator. I'm trying to help everybody learn and just give you what I have learned myself. Some people do trade live or have traded live with us, but remember, I'm not going to get them right all the time. So I take no responsibility for you losing money. So if you are trading live, lower your risk. Maybe just do 1% or something like that. Okay. Now I trade 3-minute trades on the 5-minute time frame. And so what I'm trying to do is I've got a rule for entries for myself. So this is the 5-minute candle. Oh, sorry, we'll switch to the 5. I'm on the 15. On the 5-minute, I like to only enter trades within the last 1 or 2 minutes of a 5-minute candle. So right now, we're actually heading up into the support zone here, or resistance zone here, and I'm actually liking this for a put. Now, it may have gone already. I'm going to switch to the 1-minute, but if you switch to USD JPY, we might get a spike up. USD JPY. We're going to miss it, I think, but let's see. This is the end of this candle. If we get it spike up, remember, candles generally create wicks. It looks like this one on the 1-minute has already created a wick and it's moving down. So you'll sometimes see me enter trades where it sort of spikes up last minute. I enter it and then it drops. Now you could probably enter this, but I have certain rules. So my zones, I want it to be within my zone when I enter. Now, what I'm waiting for right now is we're actually in the new 5-minute candle. So I like to trade generally 1 minute either side of the 5-minute candle. So price needs to be in my zone, either at 1 minute before the new candle opens, or within 1 minute of the candle closing. So right now I've got 14 seconds left. If I was to stick to my rule, I've only got 11 seconds left to make my entry.
Oh, look at that drop. That's already happened.
So I could have made my entry there, but really I was a little bit late on that one. I would have liked for it to be, up here closer to the zone. You know how we spoke about our zones. I'm on the 5-minute time frame. This here looks like, to me, like my zone. So if the timing was right, I would have either entered it in the zone, or when it spiked back up, I would have entered it on the outside of that zone. Does that make sense to you guys? Just type a 1 if that's making any sense. Type a 2 if you're confused as hell.
Nah, making sense.
Good.
Okay, you can get in your zone and just
all right,
get into trading zone. I'll look at these question box. I am here, guys. I'm like, hi. I just have a baby on my lap, but I'm keeping track of the chats. So
see how this is sort of staying in that zone. It hasn't moved down yet. It could be that it's going to push through. Remember the bowling ball, did I just remove all my, there we go. The bowling ball analogy, this could be wanting to push through. Okay, if you've got a bowling ball and you're hammering on the ceiling, it's bouncing against that ceiling multiple times, then sooner or later it will break through. So be aware of that. It doesn't always happen. Like over here, look, it was bouncing against it, and it actually dropped. So there's a few things that you want to take into consideration. What is the overall trend doing? You know, if I switch to the 15 minutes, what has it been doing for the last 15 minutes? It's been moving down. So that gives me good confidence that I think it'll continue moving down. It doesn't guarantee it, but I think that it will continue moving down. And so we're now getting close. It hasn't quite dropped all the way, and we could see a spike back up into our zone. And as long as the timing's right, then I'll enter this trade. So let's see if we can do one this time. It's within the last 2 minutes. I like to actually do it within the last minute, but if it gets near our zone within the last 2 minutes, or definitely if it gets to the top of my zone in the last 2 minutes, then I'll take the trade. So get ready on USD JPY. I don't think we're going to make it, but let's just get ready. So if it spikes up, let's see where our zone is. So I've got 320 to 324. I'm going to create a new zone, just the top of this wick. So about between 315 and 325, which is about here, 315, 325. It's up here. So if I can get an entry at 315, it's actually up here. That's 315 there. If it spikes up to there, I'm definitely entering. And we're about to enter a new 1 minute candle. So we possibly might see it come up. So there's the new one minute candle. It's just the question is, how far up is it going to come? And no, it's going to continue down. All right. Now this is when I have been trading live, you'll see, especially on these calls that we've done recently, I'm not used to trading live with people, and I get quite impatient, and I jump into trades too quickly. I don't normally trade like that. When you see me trade live like that, it's just because we're time pressured and I have to get a few winning trades in. But it's better to be patient and find a good setup. So right now I could have entered that. I could have entered that first one. I think I would have entered that first one if I was a little bit sooner.
Did anybody enter that?
Yeah, did anybody enter any of these? Yeah, patience equals profit. I like that. That's great. So that first one would have been a great entry. This one here, it wasn't at my support. So I'm not keen on entering it. I probably would have done that if that was a live one, because I did think that it's going to go down. Oh, good.
Nice.
Good. A couple of people cleared. Okay.
Okay. Let's get into some finding some trades.
Now, can you jump on US? Oh, no, you can't.
No.
Can you? I want to keep an eye on this, because I think we could get another entry on this. There's still 4 minutes to go. So let me know, guys, if USD JPY gets up to this area of like the 325 or anything like that. I'll jump over to a Euro. Oh, Euro JPY. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Euro JPY. Let's jump in on Euro JPY. We're at the end of our 5 minute candle. There's 24 seconds to go. So Euro JPY, if I can get there quick enough. All right, great. 85% payout. That's what we like to see as well. Okay, that would have been the perfect entry, but let's take a look on the 1 minute and see. Okay, now we're on the 1 minute. Hopefully we're going to get a spike up on the next candle. This is our last opportunity to get in on this trade. If we get a spike up to the 633, then we're in. So 633 about here. If we get a spike up, I think we're going to miss this one as well. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm getting a little spike. And do we want to take it? Oh, you could. I'm going to take it. And that was a really bad call. It was a really bad call because it's not. I'm not sticking to my rules with you guys on that. I would like to take some trades with you guys. So ideally, I would have liked to see it spike into my zone, which is there. So the 2.7, so the base of the wick. And there, that would have been the zone. If it spiked back up, then I would have taken that there, and that would have been a perfect trade. But hey, let's see what happens.
Playing, it'll make it drop.
Anybody in on this?
Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Big
Go.
Park it like it's hot. Park it like it's hot. Park it like it's hot. Get an attitude. Pop it like it's hot.
Okay, I'll switch to this. So now if we lose this one, it'll be lesson learned. Don't jump in too early.
Too late, you mean, in that case?
Oh yeah, sorry, too late. Now I've got rollover, so I'm going to set, and rollover is the ability to extend your your time frame by adding a little bit more money. So you guys will have different brokers, and different brokers have different rules for rollover. But for mine, I can only execute rollover before the last 45 seconds of the trade. So that's at 45. So I think we're going to be okay with this one. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. So I'm going to execute my rollover. Now it's reversing on us majorly, and that's the lesson learned. Don't enter when it's not right. See this here, this 29, or round about that to 25. This would have been our entry point, right? If we had gotten in there a little bit earlier, we would have entered here. Now it obviously spiked and came back down, but I'm sure we would have cleared that. Now I'm guessing nobody cleared that one. Let me know. Anybody still in this trade? Let me know. I want to, like, I won't be surprised if everybody didn't clear that one. The right